We won the game. Obviously, there's abundance of things we need to correct, but we won the game. So, got to come back, got to play better, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. Defense did a pretty nice job. There's some things obviously we want to get back on defense too, but I thought, for the most part, obviously they played pretty well. We need to play better on offense, and we need to play with more confidence. Questions?
Why did you make the quarterback switch, and is that going to be a permanent move going forward?
Yeah, we'll continue to evaluate that. Felt like the team needed a spark there. Jack has continued to prepare and practice well, and so he earned the right to play in that game.
Is there something you can credit for how the offensive line played this week versus last week?
We've got to play better across the board. I mean, obviously we gave up way too many sacks again. But again, I would credit that to the fact that it's not just the offensive line. It's a menagerie of problems. So we got to play better. I mean, that's bottom line. I mean, we got to play better, and I would put that firmly on confidence and the mentality, and that's what I'm responsible for. So ultimately, I would put that on me.
To what degree was the lack of offensive productivity self-inflicted?
It's a tough question because I don't want to discount what their players did. I thought their players made some plays. I thought their players played really hard. I thought they called a good game. But do I think that we did not execute? Do I think that we had some penalties that were mind-numbingly stupid? Some turnovers that were also not very intelligent. Yeah, of course. So I mean, obviously, that's self-inflicted. I mean, you got to be able to. You shouldn't have to be called into the perfect call in order to execute. We got to be able to execute the offense, and right now, we're not doing that.
Coach, go ahead. Do you have any optimism about how the defense responded all night? They were put in a lot of tough positions. Kept responding.
So most people probably don't, but I have optimism on both sides of the ball because I'm able to be at practice every day, and I'm able to see what we can do. I'm able to see what our players can do on a consistent basis. I watch how hard our coaches prepare, and I watch how our players work. Right now, on the offensive side, we're not going out and performing. On the defensive side, over the last particularly 8 quarters, we've played really well on the defensive side of the ball. It's funny how how quickly things shift, right? I mean, because there was a time in this season when everyone was worried about the defense. So we need to go out there and play with the type of confidence on both sides of the ball. But I've been happy with how our defense has responded and gone 1-0 really on each and every play. I mean, they put themselves in some tough spots at times too, and responded, which I think is almost even more important. Because sometimes, when you get put in a bad spot, you can respond because you're like, all right, we're going to do this together. When one of the players on your side is maybe responsible for putting you in that bad spot, it starts to be like, oh man, now we're a woe is me mentality. So I've been really happy about how we've responded to explosive plays or bad penalties, which I think is what we did there.
Coach, you mentioned you're at practice every day and you see how hard everybody works. Did anything happen at practice this past week that led you to believe that maybe a subpar performance could be coming?
Oh no, not really. I felt like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Actually, our G squad, what we call our scout team, offense had a really good week. I mean, they played and made plays all over the field. So, maybe I was a little bit hesitant, the other way, but looking back on it, it was probably them just making a bunch of good plays. We got some young players over there who made some plays and that sort of thing. So I was happy with how our G squad played and executed all week long, but that was more about how that elevated the level of practice than anything else.
What was the attitude like in the locker room? I doubt it was like what it was after the Louisiana game.
No, it wasn't. And what I told guys is like, it's hard to win football games. It's hard to win, and you've got to still celebrate losses. And unfortunately, I've been part of times where my own self. I'm not talking about the place I was at. I'm not talking about the people I was with or my bosses. I'm talking about me as a human. When at the end of the game, even on some games where maybe we put up a bunch of points and we still won, but I didn't think we executed well over a certain stretch, I went home and I was ticked off and I didn't celebrate those wins. And I guess what? I can't have those nights back, right? I can't have those feelings back. I can't have, be able to sit down and have a nice night with my wife or my mother or my kids or whatever, or my mother-in-law, my best friends who come to visit. Like I wasted those nights, right? Because I was so consumed with not. It was beyond winning for me. It was about performing the expectation that I had. Listen, I'm always going to be that way, but you still need to appreciate winning, because what I ultimately found was that feeling seeped into practice in our team the next week, and that sapped some of our confidence, and ultimately I think it cost us games. So I'm not going to be like that. I refuse to. We won the game. Was the game the type of performance that I envisioned? On one side of the ball it was, but obviously we have to play better. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
When a player has a performance like Kobe Williams, pretty spectacular. It's hard to kind of give him credit for what he did in offense.
Nope. Sure, I'm glad he played the way he did. Thought he played really well. I thought he did. I thought he executed the offense, and that's what's kind of upsetting / also encouraging, right? Because that the coaching is getting through to people. It's just what it's doing is it's not getting through to enough guys each and every week, right? So it's like some guys pick and choose and that sort of thing. It's my job to make sure that we play at a more consistent level, and right now I've got to do a better job there. It's plain and simple.
On Harvey out today, was that injury related?
I feel like Javon will be ready to go in the next game.
Is that the first time we've seen Ray Mello returning punts?
Yep, sure is. He made some nice plays on it. Obviously, they're very confident in a number of guys we have that can catch punts, which is, as a head coach, is a good thing, because sometimes you're terrified about what's going on back there. Obviously, that first fumble, that wasn't a punt returning thing. That was a ball security thing that we have to get fixed. Anything else? One thing I would say is, hey, I'd like to thank the fans that came out. Obviously, the weather cooperated on a pretty historic level. So I'd like to thank the fans that came out and the fans that were here and supported our team and that sort of thing. I think, I thought the student section was actually pretty good, and that was awesome. Really, really excited about that. I think that we need to continue to do that. We need to continue to support these players and, those sort of things. If somebody, listen. All right, I was not going to say this, but I'll say it. If you feel like getting on Twitter or Facebook or anything and saying something ridiculous to somebody, say it to me. But saying it to an 18 to 22-year-old kid is just one of I can't fathom the decision making mechanism that goes into that. I can't even fathom that. And especially when I would like the person or the people that are making those decisions to think about the decisions, think about if they had to go through the same thing at 18 to 22. And I know what they're going to say. Well, I didn't get my school paid for or whatever. Either did I. So like that doesn't, what does that mean? It doesn't even mean anything. Just if you have something to say it to me. I'm ultimately in charge of all this stuff. That's fine. But to go after an 18 to 22-year-old kid because of some performance is just not what it is. And I'm going to be honest with you. 99% of Monarch Nation is the other way. They're going to say, hey, not what we wanted, won the game, love you guys, let's rock. You know, the 1%, just think. That's college football fans everywhere, right? I mean, and I understand everyone feels like, well, I paid the right to have the ticket, and I did this, so I can kind of do what I want. Okay, I understand. You're right. You did. You know, but I would caution everybody to just make sure that we make good decisions on that, because ultimately, when you're sitting there and you're, at the heaven's gate, I can't imagine that that's one of the things you're going to look back on and be like, yep, that was a great decision to write that tweet to that kid that night. That seems like something you're going to feel pretty silly about. So I appreciate the 99% of our fans who are unbelievable and could not be more supportive and went out of their way to make our families and our players have a great experience today. And I just would encourage them to make sure that we fill up this stadium against App State and be ready to go when we come back here in a few weeks. So, thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys. Players will be in shortly.